Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the Lucky Dog studio in a hidden location somewhere in the upper Midwest of the United States of America, it's a brother making his own way but with all the wrong opinions. Welcome to the Morning Night Live with your host, the one and only P-Dog Knight.
Hooty hoo! Yeah, shall we start it? Hit that button, man. There we go. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Night Live. I'm your host, Marty, also known as P-Dog Knight on the internet. Welcome back to the P-Dog Knight channel, where I'm on hurricane watch because Lady Boomer is in Nashville, and well, not that it's going to be a hurricane there, but she's a little bummed because apparently rain from the hurricane is going to make her time in Nashville a little bit wet, and I just think, I'm not there, so I'm just going to be here thinking about her and hoping she's fine. She did an ominous thing this morning when she was getting ready to leave, and I left for work and she was up already. And she said something, if I don't survive this trip, here's where, as if I didn't already know where the important papers were. But she's like, well, I just want to remind you where the important papers are. I'm like, I already know where the important papers are. You're going to be just fine. It's just rain, woman. Now, if you live in Florida, you should be more concerned, but no, stop it. Stop it. Anyway, there's a lot of news going on. Plus, of course, this happened. This is the interview, another friendly interview for Kamala Harris on MSNBC. We'll talk a lot about that today, but there's a bunch of trending stuff that I got to do, so I'm pouring my coffee, if you're just wondering. Today's coffee is brought to you by Mississippi Headwaters, Itasca State Park in northern Minnesota. The headwaters of the Mississippi River. The Mississippi River originates in northern Minnesota on Lake Itasca, and as it flows out, and it's a place in northern Minnesota where you can actually walk across the Mississippi River, but through the water, I guess. And so it's really cool. It's a beautiful, beautiful park. And it's a fun place to go in the middle of the summer because a lot of people just sit there and walk through the water, and you can say, I walked across the Mississippi without a bridge. So very nice place to go. But that's that. And this is now, let's get the show started and say hi to everybody. First in the chat, of course, even beating me, Mr. Avocados Diablo gets the bell. There you congratulations. Yeah, for some reason, when I set up my show, I'm sitting here waiting to, I have to wait for the screen to refresh. And I have, my little good morning all set up in the cut and paste. All I got to do is paste the good morning, and I paste the good morning, and boom, and it's still Avocados Dabbly beats me. I don't even know how that works. How do you beat me on my own show? But it works, and you did it, so there you go. Also, good morning, Mike Savage, Blarg. And Mr. Tyre Alexander. The Scourge is here. Good morning. Also, welcome. Attack Alpaca. Lord Stanhope. Ravon Harris is here. Good morning. Kara Soldiers in the house. Plague Trucker Zach is here. Greetings from below Pittsburgh. Below Pittsburgh? Like in Cleveland? Is that right? Is it Cleveland? Or no, Cincinnati. What's the city? Oh no, Cincinnati's more kind of below Pittsburgh if you go a little bit west, right? Lord Stanhope, I said. Simon Wilkins makes an appearance. Nice to have you. And that looks like about it. Now it says in my little thing here that there are 17 people here. There's only 4 likes though, so let's fix that right now. And more people will show up, I'm sure, because the show starts. Well, people don't get the notifications right away. That's okay. It's just how it works. As far as what I'm going to be doing while Lady Boomer's gone. Well, I'm going to go visit my daughter on Saturday, and we're going to make a couple more short videos of of my birthday cards, which I'm not sure what I did with them. I better have them around here somewhere. I know they're on the kitchen counter. And then that's kind of it. I'm gonna work on some furniture because I refinish furniture just for a hobby and a little extra cash here and there. So I'll be doing that. And I'll probably clean the house because it's kind of messy right now because Lady Boomer and I have just been relaxing ever since we got back from our trip to northern Wisconsin. When we went to what the hell's the name of the town now? Why can't I remember the name? I can never remember the name of the town we went to. But I know we went to the Apostle Islands National Lakeshore. That was awesome. I'll make some videos too this weekend. So that's about it. So and if anyone shows up, you just say hi. Come on, hello. I said hit the damn like button. Nobody's hit the like button. That's what you're supposed to do. The oldest mountain range on Earth is the Appalachian. Oh, below Pittsburgh or so underground. No, not like okay. South of look, when you're looking at a globe and I'm looking at the map and there's Pittsburgh's here and Cleveland or Cincinnati's down here, that's below to me. Bayfield, Wisconsin. It's a beautiful town, man. Like I said the other day, the town looks like a friggin' Hallmark card. And I bet in the winter it is just amazing. I want to go there just in the winter just to take pictures because it's such a cool little town off Lake Superior. It is gorgeous. So anyway, let's get the show started. Let's move that there. Let's start with, speaking of hurricanes, I mentioned weather earlier. Oh, good Lord. What? Wait a minute. I have to click this. It caught my eye. This Kenny Akers is a douchebag. This is what it looks like when white people are sick of white people's shit. Oh, never mind. I don't even care. That's stupid. The Appalachians never existed before land animals. What? Okay, maybe I'm confused. What's going on? I'm confused. Oh, hello, Andrew Thorson. What's up? Yep, part of it is in Scotland too. Okay, what am I thinking here? Why are we talking about the Appalachians? I'm not sure. Part of it, rain in North Carolina is no joke. Okay, yeah, it's raining on the East Coast because of the hurricane. I guess it. Well, here we go. Let's. I'm just confused and distracted. So, Hurricane Helene, or Helena, or Helen. Some people are calling it Hurricane Helen. It hit Cancun, caused some flooding there. There's some pictures. Looks like North Shore Park and St. Pete Beach is underwater at 8:15 a.m. First part of Hurricane Helen coming through the farm. Nothing bad yet. So, they were saying it might end up being a Cat 5 hurricane. And so far, all I've seen is upgraded to a Cat 2. Because we're supposed to get 20 inches of rain here in Western North Carolina. Oh, I see. So anyway, if you want an update, I put a link to the New York Post hurricane updates, live hurricane updates. Wait, what? Unsurvivable storm to wreak havoc on Florida with 20-foot flooding, 115 miles per hour winds. Wait, what? Helena could become a Cat 4 storm. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis issued a state of emergency in almost every county in the state. An hour ago, storm surge may be unsurvivable, according to the National Weather Service. Ooh, that's not good. Hello, number one. Hurricane Helene may wreak unsurvivable damage in Florida's Big Bend region. The National Weather Service warns as the Sunshine State braces for water to rise up to 20 feet above sea level. The most dangerous hazard associated with hurricanes is increasing confidence of catastrophic and or potentially unsurvivable storm surge for Appalachia Bay. Not Appalachia, like as in the mountains, but Appalachia Bay. Storm surge may begin to arrive as early as this afternoon ahead of the strongest winds building through landfall. Oh, good Lord. I did that. I forgot to do that. Hang on. Let me fix this stuff real quick. because I hate that sound. I love the sound because I know that it's someone doing a donation, but I hate the sound because it's not my normal alert for things like that, and it annoys me, and it's really loud in my headphones. So we're going to fix that, and thank you, Advocatus Diabli, for being the first sponsor today. That means you are the new Streamlabs Superstar sponsor of the day. Yeah! Dropping a small bullet in the tip jar, AD says, we need to take the holistic approach to things, to holistically deal with matters in a holistic way so that we can be assured of a holistic solution to a very unholistic situation. Yes, that's... yeah, that's what's known as foreshadowing, because we will get to that certainly. But thank you, Advocatus Diabli, for your very holistic reading of the holistic problem. Okay, back to this. So anyway, they're saying it could be a 15 to 20 foot storm surge. Holy shit. Surge across the bay or Cabral to Swanee River, 15 to 20 feet, a swath of about 125 miles. So, and then again, Florida braces for Helene, as this was 5 hours ago, as Mexico, Cuba endured damages flooding from the storm. A lot of people filling sandbags, etc. This is shot from a plane over the Gulf of Mexico. I don't know where this is from. Is this in Mexico? I don't know. They already got places where they already got flooding and damaged boats and shit. So if you're in Florida, I would get inland and northward. I'm just saying, get away from the coast and maybe more than that. So it's very concerning. So here are those pictures, flooding in Mexico, plane over here, seeing the hurricane from bird's eye view. People filling sandbags in Florida and all kinds of stuff. So like I said, it sounds like it's going to be a very dangerous and possible major flooding in Florida. So be safe if you are from that area, or better yet, get out of that area. So, and then again, Helene, this is from an hour ago. Hurricane Helene strengthens to Category 2. National Weather Service is now forecasting an unsurvivable storm surge of up to 20 feet from Hurricane Helene for the Big Bend of Florida. This is what that looks like. So this is what it would look like if there's a 20-foot storm surge. And we really don't want to see that, but it's, it's Mother Nature. Don't fuck with Mother Nature, I'm telling you. Someone here, Lord, we come before you in the name of Jesus to lift up your church and pray for your divine protection over every person in the path of Hurricane Helen. You are the creator of all things, and we know that even the winds and waves are under your command. Well, if so, some of y'all, there must have been some Diddy party down there or something, because those waves seem like they're going to be fucking with you. So, again, Floridians, take care of yourselves. Moving on. Now, not only though, look, on top of the fact that there is a hurricane, about to be devastating in part of Florida, there's also a tornado watch in the other side of Florida. Apparently, here comes under tornado watch. We just lost power. So let's see. There's a tornado watch in place in Florida too, not just the hurricane, but a tornado watch mostly in the middle and east coast of Florida. So yeah, when it rains, it pours. I guess that would be an appropriate phraseology. Now let's get into some things that are not nearly as important. There's a woman named Hoda. Y'all know who Hoda is? Hoda Kotb or whatever. Well, she's announced that she's leaving the Today Show early next year, which is interesting. Early next year? Why are you announcing it more than 6 months in advance? I don't know. But anyway, if you're a fan of the Today Show and Hoda, she's a lovely lady. I mean, I don't have anything against her, but That's why she's like trending like number 2 on X right now, because everyone's saying, "Oh no, Hoda's leaving." Now, some of you may have no idea who the hell she is. She also used to do the show with Kathy Lee. And I got to be honest, Hoda's a very cute lady, and she's perfect for the Today Show because she's just that happy-go-lucky. What the fuck is that? Wait. Okay, I didn't need to see that. Anyway, Hoda's leaving the Today Show, so she and the Today Show are both trending. Big deal. Mark Cuban is also trending for some reason because he probably said something stupid. Oh, here he is on this is CNN talking about Trump being a socialist. Now, which is funny, but here's Mark Cuban, because he says a lot of dumb shit. Look, Mark Cuban should be hope for everybody. Okay, Mark Cuban should be hope for everybody, because Mark Cuban proves you don't have to be the smartest bulb in the tree to get rich. So there you go.
Policy proposals made by Trump to those from Independent Senator Bernie Sanders, who's a socialist. What do you mean?
Well, it was a race for socialism, right? Bernie said that credit card companies should cap their interest rates at 15%. Donald Trump, being the socialist that he is, had to beat Bernie. So Donald Trump went out and recommended that interest rate caps be set to 10%. The fact that he's even suggesting price controls and price caps is socialism 101. You haven't heard that from the vice president. You have heard that from Donald Trump.
Well, compared policy proposals.
Okay. First of all, I don't know when Trump would have said that. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But why would he just lie and say you haven't heard about price controls from the vice president when she's talking about basically straight up price controls on whatever the company she thinks are price gouging. I mean, okay, this is just one of those things where certain people try to demagogue things people say, or take things that people say in the least favorable light. And because Mark Cuban is not a fan of Donald Trump, he said something really stupid there. And so anyway, but there's a lot of things about Mark Cuban showing up here. You might be wondering, is Mark Cuban either incredibly disingenuous or incredibly stupid? The answer is both. Well, here is this him saying the same shit? Let's see what he says here on MSNBC.
I think what a lot of business people don't get.
He's by the way, he's endorsing Vice President Harris.
The Harris campaign as a company, and Kamala is the CEO, right? She's had 45 days, 60 days to build an entire organization. And you look at the results. She went from negative favorability ratings. She went from recognition being relatively low. She went from being way behind in every single poll you looked at. And now look where she's at. Worst case, she's tied. And in many cases, she's...
Okay. Did Kamala Harris do that on her own? Or did she get an incredible amount of help from the establishment media? Mark? Her popularity, especially in the beginning, was relief from the fact that Joe Biden, everyone saw what was going on with Joe Biden. And so certainly the Democrats are excited now that they have anybody but Biden. And the media back in 2020 was all in for Kamala Harris. It's just that none of the voters were. And so the fact that they finally, certainly there was no primary that made her popular, but she's the Democrat, and that's who the media mostly is going to hold up, and that's what they've done, because they all hate Donald Trump. So that's a dumb thing to say.
When you're able to turn around a battleship like a presidential campaign and go from being way behind to tied or ahead, you're doing a lot right.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, if you had what seemed like an insurmountable lead, and now you've given up.
It's a completely different person, you moron. And everyone knew, everyone knew that Joe Biden brain-addled campaign was scaring the shit out of them. So you didn't turn around a battleship. You went from a rusted out rust bucket fucking dinghy to something shiny and new with almost 100% support from the establishment mainstream media. Of course. That's you don't even have to drive the battleship. It was like Joe Biden in 2020. He wasn't driving the ship. He was in this basement. He was down in the bellows of the ship. And everyone drove it for him. And hid the fact that he could barely speak. And now we have a new candidate, a shiny new object. And everyone's like, oh, I want to check out this shiny. It's the new fashion trend, right? And so everyone wants to try it until they realize they're fucking wearing Zuba pants. And like, oh shit, these things look stupid. Why did we ever have this trend? And so now people are starting to figure out, oh my God, we're all wearing fucking Zubas. Put one in the chat if you know what a Zubas are. If you remember Zubas. Anyway, shut up, Mark Cuban. That's why he's trending. What else is trending? I need to hurry up here. Sudafed's trending. Okay, so this is the typical, every 6 months, Sudafed trends, and usually it's related to either guns or elections. Okay, and so you got a bunch of people. Well, there's a bunch of cut and pasters cutting and pasting the same, basically the same sentence over and over. Please explain to me why I'm not allowed to buy 2 months of Sudafed because they're afraid I might be cooking meth, but anyone can walk in and buy 2 AR-15s and 500 rounds of ammunition and no one bats an eye. Well, I don't recall you having to get a background check, a federal background check for Sudafed. It's kind of same with voting. Good morning, Shrapnel and Darren Root, by the way. So I'm, But this particular meme comes out, or this particular sentence comes out quite often. And then also in the same vein, there are people saying, what is it? Okay, and look, and it's funny because this is cut and paste. The same exact sentence right there by this Arlene. Same exact sentence right there by this authentic, candid, whatever entertainment. Same exact sentence right here by someone named Grandpa Harris. Now, but then on the other side of that, there are people who are saying, why do I need to show ID to buy Sudafed, but I don't need it to vote? Now, because, well, first of all, you should have an ID to vote, I would think. If you want to say that you're a citizen of the United States of America and you are eligible to vote, you should be able to have to show the fact that you are a citizen of the United States of America to even register to vote. But in some states, like my great state of Minnesota, if you get a driver's license, you're automatically registered to vote. And in fact, you have to opt out. You have to opt out, saying that I am not a citizen, so I'm not allowed to vote, to get off the voter rolls. That's, let me think of a good term for that. Oh, I know. In the immortal words of William Henry Harrison, that's fucked up. I'm just saying. So anyway, is that his name, William Henry Harrison? That's the president one, William Henry Harrison. Maybe I just made up a name just now. So anyway, that's why Sudafed's trending. It happens about once every 6 months, or sometimes it happens after a shooting, whatever. But it's dumb. It's just dumb. Moving on. The Vatican is trending because apparently the Pope said something about walls and shit. Tear down the wall, or he said something about, what did he say? Vatican on Trump. Pope Francis said, a person who thinks only about building walls, whenever they may be, and not of building bridges, wherever they may be, and not building bridges is not Christian. This is not the gospel. Well, it's interesting because the Pope is the Catholic Church is absolutely against abortion. And also, someone brings up this point. This little white line you see here, you see this? I'm gonna make it bigger on the screen. Oh, I guess not. See this little white line around here in this picture? Maybe you can see it, maybe you can't. That is the wall that goes around the Vatican. The Vatican is protected by a wall. So I don't know, Pope. Look, Pope, I'm more than happy that you make statements and proclamations and all that shit on based on the Catholic religion, and leave the politics to the countries that the politics are in. Now, you can certainly have an opinion, but honestly, since you're not voting in the American election, you can just shut the hell up. I'll just say it. Also trending is Mayor Adams. Now, Mayor Eric Adams of New York City apparently has been indicted. And this is fascinating. And so someone's talking about this, or people talking about this, are mentioning the fact that the mayor was indicted after breaking with the Biden administration on illegal aliens, which is funny because I don't recall them even investigating him before that. And then all of a sudden he's got a crime that they're investigating him for. When Mayor Eric Adams first took office, this is the writer saying this, I described him as a corrupt clown and the best of a very bad lot of candidates, or the best of a very bad lot of candidates, a lot as in a lot full of them, and predicted he would end up being indicted. Now, I'm not surprised that when he was indicted, but the issue wasn't corruption. Adams is no more corrupt than the average New York City or Chicago, Detroit, LA, San Francisco, or big city Democratic politician, which is to say his kind of corruption is business as usual, and there was something else that triggered this. Adams used to be a Biden proxy. Biden administration liked the idea of a black big city mayor until Adams broke with it over the open borders illegal alien invasion. New York City was and is overwhelmed by the invaders, facing staggering expenses and chaos. Adams initially followed the party line and blamed Texas and Florida for busing migrants. But then he broke with the White House and blamed the Biden administration. At that point, the relationship fell apart and this outcome became inevitable. Is there any evidence of that? Well, let's look at the timeline. In April 2023, Mayor Adams began making pointed comments about the border crisis being a federal problem. By August 2023, the Biden administration had begun taking shots at Adams. In November 2023, the federal investigations of Adams went public. Coincidence? Maybe. But who believes in coincidences in corrupt systems? Like the election timing of this particular takedown, which opens the door for a radical leftist to take over of the mayor's office, which will be an even more worse version of Bill de Blasio. The investigation predated some of the raids, but would the FBI have gone as hard after Adams if he hadn't become a problem for the White House? Now, Adams is corrupt, but his real crime was telling the truth about the open border crisis. So that's an editorial from Front Page. And here we got in Breitbart, New York City Mayor Adams has responded to the indictment. Charges are entirely false. That's kind of how he talks. New York City Mayor, oh, here, let's see. Here's Mr. Adams and his tape message.
My fellow New Yorkers, it is now my belief that the federal government intends to charge me with crimes. If so, these charges will be entirely false, based on lies.
Well, wait. No, I do have to chuckle a little bit. If you don't know what the charges are going to be, are you just anticipating they'll be false and based on lies? We don't know if they're false and based on lies. The question is, would a Democrat get charged with these charges if you had played along with Biden administration's immigration bullshit? That's the real question.
Surprising. I always knew that if I stood my ground for all of you, that I would be a target. And a target I became. For months, leaks and rumors have been aimed at me in an attempt to undermine my credibility and paint me as guilty. Just this past week, they searched the home of our new police commissioner, looking for documents from 20 years ago. Just 1 week after
Which would have predated Merrick Adams' reign. Just saying.
he joined my administration. Enough. I will fight these injustices with every ounce of my strength and my spirit. If I'm charged, I know I am innocent.
Now, personally, I am ambivalent towards Mayor Adams. He's not my mayor. I don't care if he's there or not. But it is interesting that as soon as he starts talking about the problem with illegal immigration is when all of a sudden the hammer starts to fall. So fascinating. Moving on. Also trending. Joe Biden has given an executive order on gun violence. What? What is this? Today I'll sign an executive order to crack down on emergency firearm threats like unserialized 3D printed guns and machine gun conversion devices. It'll also direct my cabinet to help improve school-based active shooter drills. It's our job to do better. What does that mean? What is he given? Here it is. What does this say? He will sign an executive order addressing firearm threats and enhancing school active shooter drills. This is the first joint gun-related event with Kamala since her appointment to lead the Office on Gun Violence Prevention. Yeah, I don't think she's been doing too much with that. The order creates a federal task force. Oh, it creates a federal task force. That's awesome. Love me some federal task forces to assess machine gun conversion devices and 3D printed firearms with findings due in 90 days. So, yes, I'm sure my biggest concern considering firearms is whether or not the machine gun conversion devices, which are usually, what's that word? Illegal. And usually done by criminals. Usually with stolen guns and unregistered guns. Hello, Episcopos. What's up, brother? I don't understand. He's creating, this is his big gun order to combat gun violence. A federal task force to assess machine gun conversion devices and 3D printed. Now look, I get it. 3D printed firearms probably, could be a problem if all those 3D printers building firearms. I'm sure that's in fact, I'm pretty sure the dude who tried to fire at Donald Trump had a 3D printed AK-47. Not. What is he? I don't get it. It's okay. This is one of those election years. Make it look like I'm doing something. But Fred Gutenberg, you know who that is? That's one of the. Isn't he one of the what's the school in Florida that David Hogg went to? I think he's one of the parents from that school. He wrote this very eloquent. I guess, taint cleaning of Joe Biden for this. He says, today I will be at the White House for the formal announcement of these newest measures to reduce gun violence. Creating a task force. These measures are only possible because of the leadership of POTUS, Joe Biden, and Vice President Kamala Harris, a task force. It's not lost to me that this is happening on the 1-year anniversary of the Office of Gun Violence Prevention. You mean they haven't done shit for an entire year? What have they done? What has the Office for Gun Violence Prevention done in the entire year that it's existed? Led by Kamala Harris, of course. The thoughtfulness and completeness of these measures is a testament to this office and the great people working in it. Wait a minute, the thoughtfulness and completeness, you mean they're creating a task force? That's the completeness of it? Oh my God. I often say that gun violence is about what happens before, what happens during, and what happens after. You often say that? How often do you say that, Fred? These announcements address all of that. Does it? On a personal note, as many know, The team from the Office of Gun Violence Prevention and Vice President Harris visited me for a tour of the school where Jamie was killed. And rest in peace to his child. I mean, I don't want to make fun of him for that, but since then, some of his advocacy has been off the mark. That's all I'm saying. I have no doubt that many of these measures are a result of that visit and our subsequent conversation. But except there was no machine gun conversion or 3D printed guns involved. That's what the task force is going to be for. Machine gun conversions and 3D printed guns has nothing to do with what happened at your child's school. Also, on a personal note, I often say that gun violence is not only about those we bury, but those who survive. The measures announced today to support survivors are a big deal. Okay, if there's measures to support survivors, great. I have no problem with that. But I just don't understand why they're making this big announcement like they're really doing something. All of this is only possible because of presidential leadership and a testament to why we must vote. Work matters. This work matters, and this work is saving lives. I don't know how. It sounds great. And look, I don't have a solution. So maybe having a task force will actually accomplish something. I just don't know what it'll accomplish. So there you go. All right. Finally, now we're into the topic of the day. Let's talk about this interview of Kamala Harris on MSNBC. Now, I was going to go through the whole interview, which I still may later, but probably not. There's several clips, but I want to go through the reactions because obviously anytime a presidential candidate or something does an interview like this, there is always going to be some kind of, I don't know. There'll be the enthusiastic supporters of that candidate, and then there will be the detractors. So we're going to go through a few of both of the thoughts on this interview that Kamala Harris did with Stephanie Ruhle of MSNBC. Clearly a friendly venue, and I can't even say it was a softball interview. I was more like Teeball, and there are several cases of swing and a miss. I think, although I've listened to most of the interview, and she did actually answer one question I thought very well regarding a Japanese company wanting to buy U.S. steel, where she said, well, whether the company's owned by Japan or owned by the United States, if the company's doing the work in the United States, you got American workers producing American steel. It's just by a company that's in Japan. Now, the concern, I suppose, would be, where's that steel going to go after it's produced? But I thought she had a decent answer on that one single question. All right. But before we go ahead, let's say thank you, Avocados Diablo. Sponsor the show one more time. Appreciate you. Who says, if this guy put half this much energy into banging his wife or any random whore, he would have a new kid nearly as old by this point. Oh my God. Oh my God. AD. I can't even. I can't. Oh my God. Thank you, Avocados Diablo, for sponsoring the show. If you want to sponsor the show, you can do so on Streamlabs. The link's at the top of the chat. I need money. Send money. And please, somebody besides Avocados Diablo be the Streamlabs Superstar sponsor of the day. Oh my goodness. That was special. Oh my God. All right, let's talk about Kamala Harris's interview here. Now, one of the reasons, one of the trending words of the day was holistically. because during this interview, and as Avocados Diablo earlier foreshadowed, apparently the word holistically was a word in the vocabulary list that Kamala Harris certainly wanted to emphasize. Let me fix the screen here. There we go. And this was just a part of the interview. We'll get into some reactions though after this. But this was probably the most profound, part of the interview. And here we go.
And assistance to state and local governments around transit dollars. And looking holistically at the connection between that and housing. And looking holistically at the incentives we in the federal government can create for local and state governments to actually engage in planning in a holistic manner. That includes prioritizing affordable housing. And assistance to state.
So apparently one of the talking points of the day would be holistic. Anyway, so she had this interview on MSNBC, and I want to go through a few of the reactions, and maybe it'll tell you how the interview actually went. Why is she in a shop? I don't know. See, now they decided to do the interview. I believe in this is crazy, right? So in order to make it seem like, oh my gosh, she's out there with the working class and we're going to go to this wood shop place or whatever and do the interview, I have no idea. I don't know. I'm a shill that identifies as a grieving parent. Oh my God, yeah. Hi, Rod Line, by the way. Nice to have you here. So let's just go. Oh, what's this one? Oh, and then I have a whole trending topic of the Kamala Harris interview that'll be linked to, but you can see that later. Let's go to the New York Times though, and I'm going to tell you right now, there's a lot of people pissed off about the New York Times take on this because they aren't slobbering over the trail of, Kamala's fart dust. New York Times, 3 takeaways from Kamala Harris's interview on MSNBC by someone named Reed Epstein, no relation to those who didn't kill themselves. As Vice President Kamala Harris parses out the details of her agenda, she has favored broad strokes over detailed policy papers. Broad strokes is an understatement. Only recently has she begun sitting in for interviews, which have elicited few details about what her presidential administration might look like. Little about that careful approach changed during a 25-minute interview with Stephanie Ruhle of MSNBC that was broadcast on Wednesday night. Again, not a live interview, a taped interview. Probably had a few edits in it. It's hard to tell sometimes. It was Harris's first one-on-one interview on cable television since becoming the Democratic nominee. In her discussion with a friendly interviewer, the vice president again presented herself as a champion of the middle class and hit many of the same themes from her pro-business economic speech earlier in the day. She largely avoided direct questions about how she would govern and why some voters would remain fond of former President Donald J. Trump's stewardship of the economy. So here are the 3 takeaways from the New York Times. The first is Harris had roundabout answers to open-ended questions. You mean she fell back on campaign speech material that she'd already memorized. Ms. Ruhle's first question about how Ms. Harris might respond to people who hear her proposals and say, these policies aren't for me. The MSNBC host's second was about why voters tend to tell pollsters that Mr. Trump is better equipped to handle the economy. Ms. Harris responded to the fairly basic and predictable questions with roundabout responses that did not provide substantive answers. Instead of offering any explanation for why Mr. Trump polls better on the economy, a matter that has vexed Democrats as President Biden has overseen a steadily improving economy, Ms. Harris instead blasted Mr. Trump's record. She blamed him for the loss of manufacturing and auto worker jobs, which was false, and said his tariff proposals would serve as an added sales tax on American consumers, as if her proposed higher corporate taxes wouldn't. That's my aside. She said nothing about why voters think Mr. Trump and Republicans would be better on the economy, but she did say her policies are for everyone. Oh, I'm okay. What does that even mean? She said, if you're hardworking, if you have dreams and ambitions and the aspirations of what I believe you do, you are in my plan. Okay, but what the fuck's your plan, lady? Second part, she avoided a looming scenario. What if Democrats lose the Senate? Now, this is kind of important. Ms. Harris has been eagerly promoting big-ticket items on her agenda: middle-class tax cut, tax increases for the rich, and big corporations, more money for child care and health care. Ms. Ruhle brought up the elephant in the room. How could any of this happen without Democratic control of the Senate? And the reason she asked that question probably is because the Senate still 50-50? And she's the tie vote breaker? But in this cycle, 10 Democratic senators are defending their seats in the election. And in about 3 or 4 of those seats, Republicans are leading. And in particular, West Virginia and Montana, which have always been vulnerable because they're highly Republican states, with Democrat senators. Now, will Joe Manchin pull it out? Ew, that sounded wrong. But I think John Tester's in big trouble. So it could be a Republican majority Senate. And so there you go. So what was her answer? Well, on this key question, which hangs over Harris' campaign as Democrats increasingly fear Senator John Tester of Montana is in a perilous political situation. If he loses his reelection bid, Democrats would need to flip at least one Republican-held Senate seat to retain control of the chamber, an unlikely prospect given this year's daunting map for the party. Ms. Harris skated right past Ms. Ruhle's question about whether Democrats would find the money for such proposals without addressing her party's Senate prospects. But we're going to have to raise corporate taxes. Well, what if the Senate says, fuck off? We're going to have to make sure the biggest corporations and billionaires pay their fair share. What is their fair share? That's just it. It's about paying their fair share. What is their fair share? Because their fair share costs all of us. Apparently, look, fair share, when they say fair share, they just mean they want more taxes income from everybody. You know, they're playing a populist game too. It's like, what is their fair share? Look, you're taxed. The corporations are taxed on what they sell. They're taxed on what they make. They tax you on your income. They tax you when you buy shit. They tax you when you drive your car. They tax you when you have your house. Even if you own your house, you still got to pay taxes. I mean, everything's taxed. Everything in this nation is taxed except for clothing and food in Minnesota. But it's taxed when the corporation that sold you the food gets taxes on their corporate profits. So essentially everything is taxed in the United States. There's nothing I can't think of anything that's not taxed except for, people do side hustles and make cash on the side. Good morning, Anon. 1, 2, 3. And select a boy.
Yeah, boy.
So anyway, and then that is an argument that she may find herself making to a very skeptical Senate Republicans next year if she wants to win. If she wins the White House, well, yeah, and she may not get the House either. She could be an executive of one party with a House and Senate of the other party. So she's got a lot of work to do. And then the third point they're making is a hard-hitting Harris interview is still yet to come. She failed. If she has a hard-hitting interview, she's screwed. Someone actually forces her to answer questions. So this is the New York Times. Now, a lot of people have been critical of the New York Times because they just haven't been just going along to get along with all the others. Here's the point. Since Ms. Harris began granting more interviews in recent days, her media strategy has been to sit with friendly inquisitors who are not inclined to ask terribly thorny questions or press her when her responses are evasive, which they always are. She literally reverts back to her stump speech. What are you going to do to improve the economy? Well, I was born in a middle-class family, and my mother had to save money to buy a house. What the fuck? That's not what I asked you. Answer the damn question. Anyway, nothing about that changed during her interview with Ms. Ruhle, excuse me, before her audience on MSNBC, the liberal cable channel whose viewers overwhelmingly favor Democratic candidates. It's not quite clear what Ms. Harris gained aside from giving her campaign aides the ability to say she held one-on-one cable news interview. For the vice president, speaking with Ms. Ruhle was roughly the same ballpark as Mr. Trump having one of his regular chats with Sean Hannity on Fox News. Oh, you know that's going to piss people off. Oh, that's going to piss off the Democrats and lefties, I'm sure. In fact, it did, because I already know. I've seen some of the responses to this article. Last week, Ms. Ruhle openly showed her preference for Ms. Harris over Mr. Trump during an appearance on Bill Maher's HBO program. Yeah, she basically endorsed Kamala Harris. So having an interview with someone you endorsed, it really pressed you on issues that Republicans or just normal people care about. And when she interviewed Mr. Biden in May 2023, Ms. Ruhle did not press him after his stumbling answers and praised him throughout the 14-minute discussion. So it went with Ms. Harris. Ms. Ruhle joined Ms. Harris in attacking Mr. Trump and avoided posing tricky questions about positions Ms. Harris supported during her 2020 presidential campaign, or what, if anything, she knew about Mr. Biden's physical conditions or mental acuity as his own campaign tanked. Although they used the word deteriorated. Which is why perhaps Ms. Harris agreed to the interview in the first place. Oh my gosh, the New York Times wrote that shit? Unbelievable. All right, and that's a friendly Harris supporting newspaper. Huffington Post, we'll just go through this. Now the Huffington Post is going to be mad about some part of the interview, and this is the part that this Ron Dicker, what kind of a name is that? MSNBC's Stephanie Ruhle made the question her last in talking to the Democratic nominee. Kamala Harris is asked in an interview, "Can we trust you?" MSNBC host Stephanie Ruhle ended her interview with Kamala Harris by asking the Democratic nominee, "Can we trust you?" Yes, the vice president replied, "I'm not perfect, but I will tell you, I'm always going to put the needs of the people first." Ruhle appeared to be posing the question on behalf of American women after Harris picked apart Republican nominees Donald Trump's recent pledge to be their protector. Donald Trump said he could keep women from becoming abandoned, lonely, or scared. He then added, "You will no longer be thinking about abortion." Harris noted that as president, the Republican nominee chose 3 U.S. Supreme Court justices who helped overturn Roe versus Wade, which, of course, look, it was bad law, whether you agree with legal abortion or not. It was bad law. It just was. It always has been. Even Ruth Bader Ginsburg said it was bad law. So, it never should have been constructed the way it was, because they created law out of thin air. Anyway, but, she noted as president, he chose the Supreme Court justices, easing the path for more states to impose higher restrictions on reproductive care. Now, it's funny how they use the words reproductive care. It's more like temporarily reproductive termination to me. It's funny that care. That's an interesting. They always use that word, just like they do with trans and kids. They call it transgender health or transgender care. Yeah, it's plastic surgery. It's not necessarily care. It's not essential. At least if you ask places where they're banning it. Anyway. She also referenced past comments by Trump in which he said there has to be some sort of punishment for women who abort if the ban were passed. Yeah, Harris said it would be the decision women should be able to make about their own body and their future. Okay, so apparently they made that whole question about abortion. Now, by the way, I do have the entire interview in the links today. I'll put it, you'll find it. It's a YouTube video from MSNBC. Let's go to Newsweek's reaction to this. They also have 3 key takeaways from the Kamala Harris MSNBC interview. Let's see if they're the same as the New York Times. Harris on the economy and Trump's tariffs plan. Trump has proposed putting new 10% and 20% tariffs on imported goods if he gets reelected. The former president recently claimed that he would not require approval from Congress to enact the plan. A number of Okay. A number of economists have warned that Trump's proposal, which he says would target countries that are ripping us off, would adversely affect U.S. consumers and businesses. Now, this is obviously an editorial. Well, yeah, some economists say that, and some economists say other things, but whatever. Harris, who says that the Trump plan amounts to a new national sales tax since increased import costs by tariffs would likely be passed on to consumers, denounced the plan on her MSNBC interview. And I laugh every time I hear this. So you're saying that tariffs on foreign goods would raise prices, but increased corporate taxes on American goods would not? Make that make sense. Make it make sense. I've no one's ever addressed that. Thank you, Tyre Alexander. Poet Tyre tipped a deuce in the tip jar. Thank you, sir. Who says, we will tax your water and pipes in the sink. We will tax the grease in your hair. And when you die, we will tax your heirs double for your coffin. And you fail to pay me your tax, you will be imprisoned and owe me taxes on the money we used to house you there. Yes, that's exactly what they're like. Thank you, Tyre Alexander. What is that from? That's from a specific source. I can't remember what that's from. Just type in the chat. That'd be great. Oh, Steph. What's up, Steph Colonel? What's up, man? So anyway, so that's one of their takes is on the Trump tariffs. Oh, and here's the thing, though. So here you go. So she says, you don't just throw around the idea of just tariffs across the board, Harris said, after Ruhle pointed out that President Joe Biden has some limited tariffs in place and asked whether she thought they were good or bad tariffs. Well, the thing is, too, Joe Biden hasn't repealed some of the Trump tariffs from before, so apparently they're okay. Trump is just not very serious about how he thinks about some of these issues. Well, then why hasn't Joe Biden repealed some of those tariffs? One must be serious and have a plan, she added, a real plan. That's not just about some talking point ending in an exclamation in a political rally, but actually putting the thought into what will be the return on the investment and the economic impact on everyday people. Yeah, same with your corporate taxes, babe. Harris went on to tout her proposals of $25,000 in down payment assistance for her first-time homebuyers. Now, have any of you read between the lines on that particular proposal? What she is saying, because they always tout it as $25,000 in down payment assistance for first-time homebuyers. Now, you all realize it's not for first-time homebuyers. That's not what her proposal is. Her proposal is $25,000 in down payment assistance for people who live or from a family who's never owned a home. As in legacy type home buyers. So, or have never owned a home in America, right? So, for example, it seems to me that proposal would be, it seems like illegal aliens would be eligible for that, but certainly not my son or daughter, because my son and daughter have parents who own a home. If your parents own a home in this, and it's the way it's written, but they always say first-time home buyers. If you're buying a home and your parents own a home, you wouldn't be eligible for this $25,000 program. And also she's, touting her $6,000 child tax credit for the first year and a $50,000 tax deduction for first-time small business owners. Again, it's interesting. For first-time small businesses, what is a first-time small business? Like if I'm working at, Hardee's and I decide I want to buy a food truck, is it just like the home buying thing? Does it apply only to people who've never run a business before? Now, it's a $50,000 tax deduction, so you still got to come up with the money yourself. Anyway, in response to a request for comment, Trump campaign spokesperson Stephen Chung emailed the following statement to Newsweek on Wednesday night. Every word that comes out of Kamala Harris's mouth is a lie, except when she is spewing violent and hateful rhetoric that led to multiple assassination attempts against former President Trump. That is savage. That is a savage answer. Holy shit. I can't believe it. Second point that Newsweek comes out with on Harris's interview, Harris on the broken immigration system. We do have a broken immigration system, Harris said after being asked what she would do to help communities at capacity after taking in migrants. It needs to be fixed. Well, that doesn't solve the problem she asked you about. And also, I always laugh when they say, well, we have a broken immigration system. How is it broken? We have immigration laws. Maybe it's broken because we don't follow our immigration laws. Maybe we don't, we don't find ways to streamline the legal immigration that, people take 7, 8, 10 years to become citizens. But how they always say it's broken. Well, it's broken because you fucking broke it. It's broken because you don't enforce the laws that we have. It's broken because you hint to people around the world that, hey, if you can just get to Mexico, the Mexico border, and say the word asylum, we're going to just let you in and we're going to pay for all your shit when you get here. That's what's broken about it. The immigration system, again, I'm going to start saying this a lot, so you might get sick of me, but I don't care. Right now, our immigration system says if you can get across our border and say the word asylum, we're gonna put you up for a year at our expense. Yeah, that's broken, all right, because in the past, the give me your tired, your poor immigrants that came through Ellis Island and all these other places, they weren't expecting government handouts when they got here. The community that they moved to sometimes would help them. Maybe they found ways to get jobs, blah, blah, blah. But we certainly weren't giving them $5,000 a month to feed their family and putting them up in hotels that, with extra space and taking over school buildings and converting them for shelters for, thousands of migrants who came here illegally. No. Back in the day, if you got here, you had to figure out your shit when you got here. You don't work, you don't eat. You don't, find something, you don't eat. If the community doesn't help you, you better go and, plant some tomatoes. So, it drives me insane. Anyway, Harris pointed out to the bipartisan border security bill. Oh, you mean the let's process more people faster and more efficiently bill? Rather than saying, no, you can't come in that way. That's not the proper way to come into the country. And Trump urged Republicans to kill it earlier this year. Well, it wasn't going anywhere in the House anyway. Okay, it was DOA in the House of Representatives. So the idea that, Donald Trump told him to kill that bill. No, that is ridiculous. And then she got into their takeaway was also women's rights, Trump's protector remark, whatever. Okay, so that's their take. For us now, in a different take on her interview, Washington Free Beacon, word salad sandwich, Harris dodges softball questions and friendly chat with MSNBC's Stephanie Ruhle. Vice President Kamala Harris recited familiar talking points and dished out indecipherable word salads Wednesday evening during her first solo interview with a national network, MSNBC, and her second interview this month with a media figure who openly supports her campaign. Stephanie Ruhle last week Harris sat down with Oprah Winfrey, the billionaire tycoon. Most significantly, perhaps, Harris finally weighed in on the Washington Free Beacon's detailed report on the curious nature of her claim to have worked at McDonald's during college. I come from a middle class. That's her answer to everything. I come from the middle class, Harris said for roughly the 1,000th time since accepting the Democratic Party's nomination for president. She also believes in the middle class as well as new industries and entrepreneurs and bringing down costs. And she is serious about her enthusiasm for small business, but has also spent a lot of time with CEOs who agree with her that her policies, such as they are, would revive the economy after 4 years of failed leadership under President Joe Biden. aka the Biden-Harris administration. Ruhle, who just days earlier defended Harris for refusing to give interviews, asked a series of softball questions about the economy, nodding along and helpfully interrupting at times to steer the vice president towards a different talking point. Ruhle hardly seemed bothered when Harris made dubious claims about dubious claims a serious journalist could easily fact check in real time, or when Harris didn't even bother to answer her questions. Asked about the American voters who don't see themselves in her economic proposal. Oh, let's just stop right here. Because I have clips. Why am I reading this from an article when I have clips? Now, oh, wait a minute. I got to do this, though. Because here's one of these taint lickers. I'm sorry, taint cleaners? Taint lickers? Whatever. Someone named David Rothkopf. He has 305,000 followers on X, the app formerly known as Twitter. And here's his take. For all the disgruntled media superstars who are bent out of shape that Kamala Harris is not dancing their dance, I say, shh. Watch, listen, and learn. She is speaking to the press plenty. And she has plenty to say, but she is doing so in ways that allow her to address the real core issues of this campaign, yes, of her being from a middle-class family. She will not be baited into sessions in which all she hears are recycled Trump oppo translated into gotcha questions and burnish a multi-billionaire reporter career bona fides and earn them a backslap or two at the next Georgetown cocktail party. Tonight's conversation about the economy was a perfect example. She had an in-depth discussion about critical issues with a first-class reporter who is one of the very few who truly and deeply understands economics and business. And the result was an exchange that should be must-watch TV for all voters. It was substantive, excuse me. It was detailed. It was factual. It drew a stark contrast with her concept of a program counterpart. It was excellent. Kamala Harris was excellent. Stephanie Ruhle was superb. It sent the right message in the right way to the right audience. Wait. You mean the audience that 99% already supports her? What the fuck? Anyway, it was a good campaign strategy, and it was also an example of the public service side of campaigning. If you watched it, watch it again, share it, and then light a candle that the vice president is soon our president. Holy fuck. Anyway, Federalist. Their article is 5 embarrassing moments from the Kamala Harris MSNBC interview. Well, let's go through some of those. All right, we'll start. And I just have them linked all open in separate places, so you don't have to go to the Federalist to find them. Although you can find them on one page, or you can find them yourself. Here's one of them. Let's see if this is an embarrassing moment for America.
Polling shows that most likely voters still think Donald Trump is better to handle the economy. Why do you think that is?
Okay, stop. Let's get the question again. That's very important because we want to see if she answered it, first of all, and if her answer makes sense. So again,
polling shows that most likely voters still think Donald Trump is better to handle the economy. Why do you think that is?
Okay. Donald Trump, better economy. Most voters think that. Why do you think that is?
Well, here's what I know in terms of the facts.
Okay.
Donald Trump left us with the worst economy since the Great Depression.
False. When you came into office, sorry, I'm going to fact check because Stephanie Ruhle has no interest in doing that. But by the way, Stephanie Ruhle does press her on this, but I don't know if this is in this clip. But that is false. At some point during the pandemic, yes, unemployment was up to 14%. Does anyone know what the unemployment rate was during the Great Depression? Now, maybe that's because there was times in the 70s when it was around 10, 12% too. But anyway, that's false. Because by the time Biden and Harris got in office, even with the pandemic, even with a lot of states still forcing people to stay away from their jobs, the unemployment rate was still 6%, which is not terrible historically. It's fairly good historically, but it wasn't the worst since the Great Depression. Unemployment was dropping rapidly because some states were allowing people to go back to work. So that's false, completely false. And I remember because I think Biden might have mentioned this, or she said it in one of the last interviews that, unemployment was at 14%. Well, yeah, at its highest when many states shut down their entire industries. But by the time Biden got in office, it was down to 6.5%. Anyway.
Look at, for example, the employment numbers.
It was during COVID, and employment was so high because we shut down the government, we shut down the country.
And by the time you got in office, it is already in the process of recovering.
For the pandemic, he lost manufacturing jobs.
That is false. Prior to the pandemic, manufacturing jobs were up over 400,000 jobs. That's a lie. Or just misinformation. Maybe she is misinformed. She's going to say it was down 200,000. No, it wasn't. It was up 400,000.
Most people's estimates, at least 200,000.
So that was the jobs during the pandemic after gaining 400,000 new manufacturing jobs. So some of those were just businesses that shut down because of the pandemic. And they started as they let people go back to work, those jobs came back.
He lost manufacturing plants. Ask the auto workers.
False. In fact, they were going to send some plants to Mexico, and that was the big thing where he said, if you send them to Mexico, we're going to do major tariffs on any car you sell that you build there. And so Ford, for example, changed their mind. They were going to move some plants down to Mexico. Ford changed their mind because Donald Trump said, no.
Polling shows that...
Okay, so that's, I guess that's the only part of the clip. Just straight up false, okay? Next clip here is Harris cannot explain how she would pay for policies. Here we go.
And there are some people confused saying, I don't know what's going to happen next year. Under a Harris administration, at what income level should someone expect their taxes to go up? And that state and local tax deduction that's currently capped and matters to a lot of people in blue states, are you going to lift that cap?
So, first of all...
Okay, what's the question? Are you going to lift that cap?
Relates to anybody making less than $400,000 a year, your taxes will not go up. Your taxes will not go up.
Well, that's false. Why? Because the Trump tax cuts, if they allow them to expire, affects everyone who pays taxes. Your taxes will go up if you allow so does that mean they're going to keep the Trump tax cuts in place for people making less than $400,000? Because my understanding is they're just going to let them expire. At least that's what under Joe Biden, right?
And in fact, under my plan, taxes for 100 million Americans will actually be cut, including...
When has a Democrat ever proposed cutting taxes? Oh, wait, when they raised the minimum threshold for where you pay taxes. They did that once. But then everyone else had to pay more taxes.
$6,000 a year for young couples for the first year of their child's life.
First year of a child's life. Okay. Yeah, that's wasn't that the J.D. Vance plan?
Tax cut, a tax credit, essentially.
Tax credit.
By expansion of the child tax credit. And why is that? Because during the first year of a young couple, of a person's child's life, they're going to need help buying a crib, buying a car seat.
Yeah, that's not going to help them buy anything. that doesn't help you buy anything unless you're smart enough to, as soon as you're gonna have a kid before December 31st, and you have already decided to change your withholdings. It's not gonna help you buy anything. It may help you after you do your taxes the next year, but the year that you have the child is not gonna help you. Unless you get pregnant in January and you know you're going to have a child before the end of the year, so you adjust all of your withholdings for that $6,000 tax credit you're going to get. Most people don't even think about that shit. But hey, go on.
And we all benefit when they're actually able to do what they naturally want to do to take care of their child.
And expanding that.
How do we benefit? Oh, that's right, because you can tax everything they fucking buy.
Child tax credit, or you mentioned housing before, giving that extra money for a first home.
Only to people whose family has never owned a home. And again, I think the $25,000 in that one is also going to be a tax credit. So it's not going to help anyone buy a home. It just helps them the next year when they do their taxes.
If you can't raise corporate taxes, or if GOP takes control of the Senate, where do you get the money to do that? Do you still go forward with those plans and borrow?
Okay, so the question that she's supposed to be answering, if you do not get control of the Senate or the House, whatever, how are you going to pay for these ideas that are your little lofty ideas here if they won't pass it through Congress? How are you going to get the money? That's the question. Let's see if she answers this.
Borrow? Well, but we're going to have to raise corporate taxes, and we're going to have to make sure that the biggest corporations and billionaires pay their fair share. That's just it. It's about paying their fair share.
What's their fair share? What is their fair share? And she asked you, if you do not get if the Republicans take the Senate or they have the House, how are you going to pay for the ideas that you're talking about? How are you going to even get them passed? Because remember, you're the president. You're not the legislature. You're not the one who writes the laws. You just get to sign it when someone actually writes it. How are you going to get these proposals done if you don't have the votes? How are you going to get the money? Where are you going to get the money from to do these things if you do not have the votes? That's the question. And she's saying, well, you have to raise taxes. You have to do this. You have to do that. They don't have to do shit. You can ask them to write legislation for it, but they don't have to do nothing. They don't have to even do your stupid ass proposals. So how are you going to do it if they don't pass it is the question.
I am not mad at anyone for achieving success.
Doesn't matter.
But everyone should pay their fair share. And
what does that mean? What is their fair share? If the top 1% pay 47% of all U.S. taxes, are they paying their fair share? Do you want the 1% to pay 90% of all U.S. taxes? Because right now it's 47%. Top 50% pay 98% of all American taxes. What's their fair share? What does that even mean? If that, what? Thank you, Avocados Diablo. Another small bullet in the tip jar says, so if I have a kid every year and toss them out for the wolves after they're a year old, I never pay taxes again. Oh, shit. Some dude. Yeah. Yeah. Don't toss your kids out to the wolves, okay? Somebody will adopt them, I promise. Anyway, thank you, AD. How are you paying for it, Kamala, if you don't have a Democrat Senate and House?
Not right that the teachers and the firefighters that I meet every day
your rhetoric
across our
means
country
nothing
are paying a
if you
higher
don't
tax.
how are you going to pay for it?
The richest people in our country.
Look at Stephanie just nodding along. Was that your question, Stephanie? Nah, you just let her make an emotional plea versus actually answering your fucking question.
Bill Gates just said it this week. If he was in charge of taxes, he would have paid more.
Hey, Bill Gates, I got an idea. There's nothing stopping you from paying more. every CEO and billionaire, whatever, billionaire, everyone who's a Democrat who's saying if this were that, you could have us pay more. If I were the president, I would make myself pay more. Hey, fuckwad, you can pay more right now if you want to. I don't think the federal government is a good investment, but if you want to pay more, have at it. Dickhead.
And how do you find that line to make sure corporations are paying their fair share?
What is their...
But they're not leaving.
Stephanie, that's not the right question. But you are... Oh, wait. She's actually asking a good question here. I forgot about this one. This is actually a good question. This is a good question. What's the balance between paying their fair share and just saying, fuck it, we're leaving, we'll do it from somewhere else? Because you're not going to make us pay tariffs on our goods.
In our country.
Bill Gates just said it this week. If he was in charge of taxes, he would have paid more. But how do you find that line to make sure corporations are paying their fair share, but they're not leaving our country?
Now, here's what some Democrats would say, like Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom, we'll tax them for leaving. Or New York, Kathy Hochul, she was trying to tax companies that left New York. Tax them for leaving. Make them pay the fine for leaving. I'd be like, fuck off. What's their balance?
Well, listen, I work with a lot of CEOs.
That
I
doesn't
have
mean,
spent a lot of time with
that's
CEOs.
not what
and
she
I'm gonna
asked
tell
you. That's not what she asked you. That's not what she's asking you. Again, the question.
But they're not leaving our country.
Well, listen, I work with a lot of CEOs. I have spent a lot of time with CEOs. And I'm going to tell you that the business leaders who are actually part of the engine of America's economy agree that people should pay their fair share.
What is their fair share? You define what their fair share is. What does that mean when they're already paying a large portion of their corporate income in taxes? When the consumer is already paying the corporate taxes, because the corporations don't pay their taxes, we do. So you're going to raise their taxes, okay? Hey, all these companies and countries that we import goods from in the United States, well, it just doesn't seem like they're paying their fair share in taxes. So what? Maybe we should put some tariffs on them so they pay their fair share in taxes. Isn't that what you're arguing against with Donald Trump? Because it would cost American consumers more? Well, would it help American businesses to do that? Maybe they could pay less by having stuff that's not imported. But wouldn't that be there? What if you sell goods in the United States, you should pay your fair share in taxes. I mean, flip that. Good God.
Also agree that when we look at a plan such as mine that is about investing in the middle class, investing in new industry.
What does that even mean? She just talks in platitudes.
Investing in bringing down costs.
Investing meaning we're going to spend government money. So we have to tax more because we're going to spend more.
Invest in entrepreneurs like small businesses, that the overall economy is stronger and everyone benefits. Part of my plan for the economy is investing in new industries in a way that we have active partnership with the private sector.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Oh, well, I guess SpaceX would be an example of that. But I don't know if I want the federal government in a partnership with private industry. That sounds like something Mussolini would put forward. Isn't that his definition of that dreaded F word? And I don't mean fucktard. I mean fascism. That sounds like fascism to me.
I've worked with the private sector my entire career.
Have you? Wait, whoa. Worked with? How so? Your entire career, you were a prosecutor, not working with the private sector. You were a criminal prosecutor. You were a state attorney general. So you sued companies. You didn't work with them. You sued them. Then you were in the Senate. So what did you work with them? Oh, I know, when they were sending the lobbyists to you and helping your campaign. And then you've been vice president. What the fuck? What do you mean you've been working with private industry your entire career? You sound like Joe Biden right now.
Even as vice president, working with some of the biggest banks and biggest tech companies.
Working with
to increase
them?
by billions of dollars the money going into community banks to increase access to capital for small businesses.
Yeah.
Why do those biggest corporations and CEOs do that? Because they know those kinds of investments, like in our small businesses, in startups and entrepreneurs, actually strengthens America's economy overall.
And Stephanie just smiling like a fucking happy sheep. Okay, so how exactly are you going to pay for this if you don't have a Republican Senate, or if you have a Republican Senate and a Republican House? How are you going to? Well, that was the original question, and Stephanie just smiling along like she's actually answering the original question. She's not.
And everyone benefits. So this is not about bilking anybody, but it is certainly about saying, let's make sure that we create opportunities for everyone to grow wealth. I believe that it is not sufficient, and it should not be our goal to just make sure everyone is working. That should be the baseline. That should be a given.
Okay. She said a whole lot of nothing there. Two more examples, and then I'm going to get out of here. There's a ton of articles in the links today. I'm not getting to any of them. I'm not even going to mention them. There's just, if you want to see a lot of great articles about different shit, it's there. I promise. But let's do these last three more clips, I think I have left, and we're going to get out of here. All right, this is Vice President Kamala Harris. Oh, this is the holistic one. We've already seen this, but it's funny, so we'll play it again.
Between that and housing, and looking holistically at the incentives we in the federal government can create for local and state governments to actually engage in planning in a holistic manner that includes prioritizing affordable housing. And assistance to state and local governments around transit dollars.
They only did 2 of them. There were 3. What are you doing, Colin? There's 3 holistics. You didn't get all 3 of them. All right, and then this one, Harris on Teamsters' lack of endorsement. She the question was something. Well, here, hopefully they got Stephanie's question here on why the Teamsters didn't endorse Kamala Harris. Now, here's the real answer why the Teamsters didn't endorse Kamala Harris as a person who is in the Teamsters, because the rank and file people who are the working Teamsters, not the leadership that gets paid shit tons of money to make us try to endorse Democrats, the rank and file members said, fuck you, we're not voting for her, we don't want her. 61% of the Teamsters in the polls, in 2 different polls, said Trump. And so the Teamsters said, well, that's not it's not a clear endorsement, so we're not going to endorse anybody. When usually if Democrats is 51%, the Teamsters endorse the Democrat. Well, this time the Teamster rank and file said, nah. All right, here, let's hear the answer.
He saw them. There was an emotional connection. Mm-hmm. But what he didn't do was deliver policy. In the last 4 years, we have seen huge wins in this country for unions, but not all unions have gotten behind you. I want to understand, when the Teamsters decided not to endorse you, what was their reasoning? What are they looking for?
Stephanie, you're fucking stupid for even asking that question. The question isn't, first of all, well, maybe not. The question isn't the full question. Why do the Teamsters rank and file, why would you think they voted to endorse Trump versus you? Because that's the answer. The Teamster rank and file said no. We're not interested. Okay, but let's hear her answer.
Well, let me go back to our just previous conversation. I'm very proud to have the endorsement of the steelworkers and almost every other major union in America, because I stand by workers.
Look at how joyful Stephanie is. Stephanie's like, oh, she's so cool.
The major union
look at this.
In America.
Look at her.
Because
look how happy Stephanie is. Well, thank God all these other unions endorsed Kamala Harris. Did they, though? No, most of the police unions didn't endorse Harris. Just saying.
I stand by workers, and I stand by the importance of being able to join a union.
But why did the Teamsters not want to endorse you? That's the question.
And to understand the benefit and the value of unions.
Why didn't the Teamsters endorse you?
And I understand the importance of investing in new industries and working actively with the private sector to...
Why didn't the Teamsters endorse you?
Grow our economy.
But I'm asking because there's this idea we want something more from her. What is it?
Well, here's the thing, that back to your point about previous election cycles, Donald Trump made a whole lot of promises that he did not meet, and one would argue broke. Look at Lordstown. He said he was going to...
Don't sell your homes.
Yeah, don't sell your homes. And what happened? It shut down. Outsourcing under Donald Trump. His policies that are about putting, tens to hundreds of % tariffs.
John Deere.
Yes.
Which would cause John Deere to think twice about moving their plant out of the United States of America. By not bringing in... God. Now, I don't know if it's an effective policy, but I'm sure if I'm the head of John Deere and I'm like, oh, well, we're going to move this plant that we build American vehicles and farm equipment, we're going to move this plant to Mexico, and all of a sudden we're going to have to pay 100% tariff on shit we build in Mexico and send back to the United States. I would think twice about doing it. Whether it's just a threat or not, I'd be like, oh, shit. What if he really does that shit? Can we afford to do that? No, fuck no, we can't afford to do that. Holy shit.
Yes. So part of the challenge, and I don't disagree that it's a challenge, got to earn the vote of everybody.
Well, why didn't you earn the vote of the Teamsters, though? Why did you not? That's the original question. Never get into it.
Reminding people of fact, regardless of what somebody says in a small rally somewhere. And I think that's really important.
Oh, see what you did there? See, that's where she'll get Trump going. If she says a small rally, Trump can't resist that bullshit. And she knows that was planned for her to say that.
Important. And that's part of what I'm doing in this campaign, is to remind people, just like here in Pittsburgh, of the reality of who has stood with union labor, who stands for American manufacturing, who stands for American jobs.
Can I ask you that?
It's funny because doesn't Donald Trump constantly talk about America first, that we should be building shit here, that we'd put tariffs on them so people will buy American goods? Does she not realize that's the point of whether you believe in tariffs or not? That's the point of it, right? He's not saying that we're going to raise corporate taxes on American companies who produce American goods. And that's what she's proposing. Well, if I'm going to change the corporate tax rate to 28%, when I can build something in Finland where the corporate tax is 15%, then I got to determine whether or not it's worth it or not me to ship it from Finland to here, or Mexico where it's even cheaper, or Canada. That's the point Donald Trump was making. Now you can figure out what the balance is, but she doesn't see the fact that raising corporate taxes on American companies would have the opposite effect of what she's talking about right now. It doesn't help the workers. What the corporations can move their jobs where it's cheaper to produce things. That's why a lot of the auto industry moved out of Michigan, and now you see them in Tennessee and South Carolina and all these other places around the country where it used to be advantageous to build your cars in Michigan, in Detroit, because they had incentives to do it there. But taxes on companies got so high in Michigan, thanks Democrats, that they started moving to states where they didn't have those issues. That's why every big company has their home offices in Delaware, because there's no corporate tax. That should tell you right there, whoa, wait a minute. Companies move to where the taxes are lower? Shocker. that's not what she's saying. They need to pay their fair share. Well, their fair share gets passed on to the consumer. One more. Harris defends price control policy, and this is the last one we'll do today. Wait, is it? Oh, no, there's lots of other reactions. I got so many things open. There's reactions to all this, but I'm going to be done after this.
Going after those who engage in price gouging.
Yeah, who's
but
price gouging?
Who
how
supports
can you
free markets?
How do you define price gouging? How do you know that they're price gouging? If every person producing products, if all their prices go up at the same time, which ones do you determine are price gouging? That's the question that nobody's asking her because she's doing friendly ass interviews. How do you know? You're saying that inflation is because of price gouging. Wait a minute. If it's because of price gouging, are you saying that everybody is price gouging? Because everything costs more. And all by nearly the same percentage. It's almost as if there's an underlying factor that's causing this inflation, energy costs. Which ones are you going to single out for price gouging? And don't ask Robert Wright because he's an asshole. Which ones? Which ones are price gouging? Do you know? Can you tell me which ones? Because who are you going to go after specifically? Do you have an example of someone you can specifically go after right now because they're price gouging? Oh, I know. I know. I just figured it out. I know exactly who you can go after. You can go after Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, and Moderna during the pandemic. That must have been price gouging. What the Fauci juice? Oh, wait a minute. The federal government pretty much paid for that, so who cares, right? Because it doesn't matter. The government has all the money in the world. If they don't have any money, they can just print more. And that's why those companies have record profits of all times ever. Good morning, Midnight and XL. How you doing? And I said Sucks Boy. Anyway, let's listen.
Capitalist. How do you go after price gouging without implementing price controls? Because once we get in the zone, people start to get worried and they say, I don't know what she stands for.
Platitudes. So platitudes coming. I guarantee it.
Just to be very frank.
Very frank.
I am never going to apologize for going after companies and corporations that take advantage of the desperation of the American people.
Okay, that's platitude.
And as Attorney General, I saw this.
That's not the question. How? What'd you say? Again, platitudes.
Happen. In the midst of an emergency, whether it be an extreme weather event or even the pandemic, we saw it.
Okay, we're not in one of those right now. How are you going to do it now? Because you're saying there's price gouging right now. That's what you're saying. That's what Bernie Sanders is saying. That's what a lot of super leftist, lefty fuckers are doing. That's, by the way, that's a technical term. The super lefty fuckers.
Where those few companies, not the majority, not most.
But wait a minute. What do you mean not most? If inflation is everybody, if everyone's price is going up, which ones are you going to single out?
But those few companies that would take advantage of the desperation of people and jack up prices. Yeah, I'm going to go after them.
What few? Who's doing it? Give me an example. You give me one example, Kamala, other than Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna. I don't see you going after them. They price gouge the American people, and you force people to take their juice.
I'm going to go after them. And that is part of
You're not telling,
a much more comprehensive plan on what we can do to bring down the cost of living, including housing, including the everyday needs of the American people.
Won't do shit. Wait, what's this?
Coming up, more of Stephanie Ruhle's interview with Vice President Kamala Harris, where she addresses Trump's claim that he is a, quote, protector of women.
Okay, whatever. All right. So like I said, I got a ton of articles. I got more reactions, but I don't have time to get to them. But this is interesting. I'm going to show you this one item, though, real quick, because this is interesting. According to Gallup, right now, we're talking polling, Republicans for the first time lead in party identification in the third quarter of a presidential year. First time ever. As far as party ID, usually, they try to determine how many people are registered, this and that, whatever. More Americans adults identify as Republican in the third quarter of a presidential year for the first time in recorded history, Gallup revealed. The finding is significant because party identification is a strong indicator of party preferences leading into November's presidential House and Senate elections. 48% of American adults identify as Republican or leaning Republican, while only 45% identify as Democrat or leaning Democrat, Gallup reported. That's very interesting. That's never happened before. There's been times when it's closer than that, but that's really interesting. So there's an article about that. There's articles about all kinds of stuff in the links today. In fact, I'm going to drop. Let's do the links right now because I got to do that before I leave. So what the hell? And plus, if I have, I may have time today to. Why am I getting a call from my work here? I'm not going to answer it. Oh, that's my mother-in-law. No, it doesn't show up. Who is that? Maybe Nick. I don't know who that is. Anyway, I don't need that call. Here, let me drop the links, and I got to get out of here. I may, it's possible we'll go through the entire interview this afternoon, but maybe not. It depends. If I have extra time, I will do that, but don't expect it. But I will be back here tomorrow, and tomorrow is Friday Q&A day, and that's the best day of the week, isn't it? Don't you think so? So, do me a favor. Oh, Black Hebrew Israelites in the house. I didn't even see you here.
That's right.
So be sure to come and join me tomorrow and bring a friend. Tomorrow is Bring a Friend Day on the Morning Night Live. I would greatly appreciate it if you find one person to come join the show and hang out with us during the show, and they can be in the chat. They can ask questions because questions are fun. Here are today's links, which are going to pop up before I say this. There you go. Time to go. Thank you. My name is P-Dog Knight, and I'm out of here. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Have a great day. Hey, this is P-Dog Knight, and thanks for watching today on the P-Dog Knight channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comment section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterwards so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all the supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through Streamlabs, YouTube, Venmo, and Cash App, which are all linked in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm P-Dog Knight, and I'm out of here.